everyone, welcome once again to S.H.I.E.L.D. Discussions. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm the real Manos.
And we are getting down to the wire here toward the end of Season 1, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And Manos, as far as I know, at this point, at least while we're recording right now, at the moment of this recording, we've not heard yet if the show is going to get renewed for a second season yet, but all signs seem to be pointing to yes. So at this point, I'm really hoping that it gets renewed.
Oh, that's surprising. I thought it had already been officially renewed.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything on it yet. So hopefully we hear pretty soon that it's getting renewed. Because at this point, I really kind of hope that it does. Let's talk real quick before we get into this week's episode about some comments and suggestions and ideas from our audience from last week from the episode "The Only Light in the Darkness." And the first comment comes from Blah Do Not Care, who says, what if May's mother was an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. since her organization is not crippled? He says, a stretch, but it would still be fun. Yeah, that's a cool idea. I've kind of been waiting for S.H.I.E.L.D. to be a thing in this.
Yeah, I'm not sure if S.H.I.E.L.D. has even been established yet.
Well, it definitely hasn't been established, but that doesn't mean that it can't be around. Like, I find it difficult to believe that S.H.I.E.L.D. would be the only covert organization.
My guess is if they introduce S.W.O.R.D., it's going to be the government's replacement for S.H.I.E.L.D. Because, hey, we just had this alien invasion a couple of years ago in New York. Maybe we should get onto this S.W.O.R.D. thing. Because that's basically what
that's a good
S.W.O.R.D.'s supposed to
idea.
be, right?
Yeah, well, they'll probably also think, we've got to have something, and we'll want to replace S.H.I.E.L.D. with something that we trust.
Yeah.
So whoever that would be, I mean, we were speculating. I forget if it was you and I or me and Dan, but we were speculating for a while that maybe Hand would eventually branch off and start S.W.O.R.D. But as far as we can tell, she's dead, so that's not going to happen now.
That ain't happening.
Next comment comes from Allie Silver, who says, "I think that May's suspicions are valid." Remember, we were kind of hesitating about whether or not that made sense last time. Are valid because it is very possible that some of the Hydra spies could have done something to Coulson's mind without knowing how he was brought back. It works if you think of the theme of compartmentalization, where everyone knows only a little bit about the procedure except for Fury. A Hydra spy could have been brought in to assist later on in the procedure and not know how Coulson got to that point. It might be a little bit of a stretch, but I keep thinking of when the Shepherd book doctor says that when he was brought in, Coulson had already undergone several procedures. No, that's a good counter to that argument. And last episode, we were talking about that because another viewer brought up, does it make any sense that Garrett would be going off and trying to find everything he can about Coulson's resurrection if it was Hydra that did it. But yeah, ever since then, I've been thinking about that idea too, that, well, the whole thing about compartmentalization, it is possible that Garrett doesn't know everything, even if other members of Hydra does. That seems to be kind of the way they operate, and the way that the Winter Soldier movie dealt with the idea of Fury being uncomfortably a little bit too close to the way Hydra handles things. What do you think about that, Manos?
I always thought it was a fairly valid concern because let's think about Battlestar Galactica and the sleeper agents in that show with the Cylons.
Yeah.
Like Boomer, for instance, didn't know, or at least was having suspicions that she was a Cylon agent, and she ends up in the first season cliffhanger, like shoots Adama, and doesn't even realize she does it until it's done. It's like they went into her head, shoot Adama, blam blam, and then let her go, and then she basically snaps out of it, like, hey, what happened? I mean, that's potentially something that could do, and that could be a potential fear, because like I was saying last week, I think it was, like, at this point, I mean, with everything going crazy, with all the chaos going on,
Can't trust
I imagine any fear is probably seemingly possible.
Yeah, exactly. So no, the idea, yeah, the idea that Garrett might be trying to figure out all this information, but there still was someone sort of involved with Hydra, could have made sense. Ultimately, I think it's kind of okay that May is worried about that, but at the same time, I'm really glad that's not where they went with it.
Yeah, me too. But
You
it's
know,
a
like
legitimate
I
concern. I always thought.
yeah, and like now I think that after today's episode, we've gotten kind of past that, and now that we know what really happened, which was a total mind freak, and I really liked it. We, now that's just a concern May had, and at the very least, it's an isolated thing of if it is a problem, it's May's not thinking straight, and I don't know that I can't blame her for that. That I don't know that I can really blame her for it, even if that is the case. So anyway, next I want to read a somewhat lengthy comment from Amazing Dictator, who always has insightful comments. I seem to say something from Amazing Dictator every episode. Ward being evil finally fixed a plot hole from episode 1. This is just my opinion, but the Ward we saw in episode 1 is not the same Ward we saw in every other episode till the reveal. Episode 1 Ward was very James Bond-like. He had charm, was a great spy, could disable nuclear bombs by himself. Coulson even says he's the best spy since Romanoff. I really got the impression I was watching a younger male Black Widow, which I loved. And keep in mind, of course, that is the only episode so far that Joss Whedon wrote, and so that character was written by other people after that. Then, as soon as he joined Coulson's team, he was reduced to muscle. He was just used to prop up other characters like Skye and Fitz. They even have that episode where Ward is sent with Fitz to disable a bomb, because I guess he disables bombs, even though they established in episode 1 that Ward was a great bomb disabler himself. Ever since the Hydra reveal, I finally feel like I'm watching that same Ward from episode 1, the best spy since Romanoff. I truly buy that now. My only disappointment is that I did not get to see more of this Ward as a hero. It's really a shame he'll probably be redeemed through death, because he could have grown to be a hero on par with Romanoff. What do you think of all that?
That's an interesting concept. I hadn't really thought about that
Yeah, neither.
until you just read that. Um, yeah, it did seem like he was just kind of. Maybe that's why. It's one of the reasons why he grew to become my least favorite character because he was just kind of there for a lot of those episodes.
Yeah, and surprisingly, they kind of paid off a character just being there and bland. Well, when they finally have him say, "I'm just boring," I was like, they're going somewhere with this. Like, King of Mad Cows, I think they may have cut a lot of stuff out from the Blackout plot. It seems like they were trying to make him like Mr. Freeze, where he has a psychological condition as a result of his powers. Since Blackout's ability involves stealing power, maybe he feels empty inside, and that's creating his need to consume. And the cellist is the only person who can make him experience emotions and suppress his hunger. I'm very disappointed that they killed Patton Oswalt. The whole lie detection thing was pretty cliched. I was hoping that the lie detector would actually work and that Koenig would just pretend like Ward passed so he could spy on him. I agree with all that.
I do agree. I was disappointed that Patton Oswalt couldn't stick around. They probably just contracted him for 2 episodes, and that was that. But I would
Yeah,
have
I
liked to
mean,
have seen him stick around because I like Patton Oswalt and I like that character they were doing.
I did too. The way they killed him, and I mean, it's kind of a catch-22 because you want to like a character like that when they get killed. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want the character to be killed and be like, well, good riddance. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's hard to complain. Well, I like that guy. They shouldn't have killed him. But if he wasn't on screen as long as you would have liked, that's valid. The thing with that is, I agreed with people that said that it was kind of predictable. It sort of happened the way I might have expected it to. But on the other hand, I kind of bought the way he died. The big thing I didn't like was what he was talking about with the whole lie detector scene. They seemed to kind of have to dumb him down to make that work, and that was unfortunate since he then gets thrown under the bus further by getting killed. It would have been nice if we'd got to see him do something really smart before he got killed instead of something really stupid.
I was thinking it would be neat to see him return in a comic book role. I was watching him in these episodes, and I was thinking, how cool would it have been if they had cast him as Foggy Nelson for the Daredevil series?
Oh, he would make a fantastic Foggy Nelson. Well, don't rule it out because he loves doing comic book stuff, and we know there's going to be a Daredevil Netflix show. So I mean,
Yeah,
like, I could totally see that, and I don't see. I mean, who knows? But I don't see Marvel being above recasting or double casting like that.
yeah. Maybe they could just lighten his hair a little bit and say, hey, it's a different character. Who cares?
Boy,
Um,
I hope. Wow, now that you say that, I hope somebody thinks of that because obviously Patton Oswalt isn't above doing that kind of TV. So,
Yeah, and he would love to do that kind of character. Make it so, Marvel.
man, wow, I'm glad you said that. That's cool. Lydia Cabarros, any of you guys get a psychological thriller vibe from Ward and Sky? How Sky was following Ward's movements via her tablet, which felt like a game of Pac-Man. I'm glad she said that. I'm glad she said that because I felt that all the way through this week's episode, and I feel like that's building further on what she's talking about. Yeah, lots of psychological thriller stuff between those two.
Agreed, and I think the Pac-Man reference was rather apt because if you listen closely, if you go back to watch that episode, when Patton Oswalt's character is killed, you do hear that sound. It's very you have to very listen close.
It's really subtle, yeah. And then like the whole time that he's standing there talking to Ward, we hear woo woo woo. Review King MB. Now that all of Shield's files and information have been released to the public, will anyone find out about Sky and the fact that she's an 084? Great question.
Sky is what?
That Sky's an 084. You know
No.
the whole thing about unknown specimen thing that they've
Oh,
been
that.
playing up.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I
yeah,
don't know.
good question. Because keep in mind that the big sacrifice that Romanoff has to make in the Captain America movie is she's gonna reveal everything about Hydra, but that's also gonna reveal her past. So we've got to look at the same thing with Sky.
Hmm. Maybe that's something we'll see in season two, because right now there might not be enough time to really like include it, unless how many more episodes we got? Three, four?
3 or 4, yeah. Well, and of course, yeah. I don't think we've got more than three, but yeah. They've we know that like they're fugitives and people are trying to search for them. So I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that people don't already know about that. I think it's just that we're so close to our characters right now and just following whatever they're doing, and they're kind of closed off from the outside world right now. They're fugitives. So I mean, I am interested to see when we actually find out about that. I'm glad somebody brought that up, but I don't. I mean, I don't think it's a problem. Is all I'm saying. But let's jump in now to this week's episode, which is nothing personal. We'll start with our general overview. And Manos, let's start with you. What did you think really worked? Were you as riveted by a lot of this as I was?
I was, and actually, this might be my favorite episode in a few episodes. I thought this was really exciting, and this is rewatchable. I think.
Oh
Just
yeah, I
a
liked it more
lot
the
of
second.
a lot of stuff is paying off from the last couple episodes. It was never there was not a dull second in this episode. I don't think there was a scene wasted. Frankly, I love the whole the team trying to figure out what was happening at the same time. Sky and Ward are kind of trying to fake it towards each other. Meanwhile we have what's going on with May trying to figure out things from behind the scenes. We have a lot of Maria Hill, which thankfully was more than just a cameo.
And didn't feel shoehorned in. I was so impressed with the natural way she was brought in
Yeah,
and how much I felt like this episode needed her. And I gotta say, they have done a pretty good job of that kind of thing lately. In when they've brought in major movie characters, it's usually felt like we needed them. And this especially, I thought it was really cool that they built in a kind of personal motivation with her, with Ward. Like when she says, "Oh, I vetted him," I was like, "Cool."
yeah,
Because now she's as personally invested in all of this as we are. That's great.
because that's correct. That's I caught that too, because that's almost like her correcting a mistake, and she considers him a mistake of hers that she let that get by.
Yeah, and
I know
like
I'd
like
be
I
thinking that.
The thing I was kind of worried about was I was like, well, she's going to work for Stark, so I was kind of afraid that like they set that up at the end of Winter Soldier, and I was sort of worried that we would come into this episode and she would immediately start like rebuilding Shield or doing or something else, just to get her back in, on camera and back in the show, back in the Marvel universe, and like I really liked that they fleshed out her reasons for going to Stark, and how tactical that was, and how it was, and how much of it was about saving her own butt, which is kind of neat, because it means she has a little bit in common with Ward, because after all, that's Ward's motivation for everything, is just survival. There's a lot of that
Yes.
in there. There's a lot of that in this episode. One of the big themes is survival, and I feel like we see that with Hill. And so when she is talking about the specific reasons that she went to Stark, and in dealing with like kind of the private sector, and dealing with surveillance and things on that level, protection and stuff. I thought that made a lot of sense.
It did. And I also thought it was rather exciting to hear this line. It's kind of almost throwaway line that Stark is trying to pick up the slack security wise.
Yeah, I'm so glad we got that, because that makes perfect sense. Like they're really helping to kind of the build up our sense of what's going on in the rest of the universe. We felt so much early on in this series that this didn't feel enough like the Marvel universe, and now I feel like it's helping to expand the Marvel universe quite a bit.
And that's what I was hoping it was all about. And
It
wow, I
took
mean,
long.
the last 6 episodes have really kind of been the series that I've been hoping we'd get. Um, I I love like her conversation with Pepper. I mean, she's talking to Pepper on the phone,
I know, it's great.
uh, and I just I don't know. I just couldn't get enough of this episode. This was really exciting. I loved that game of wits that Ward and Sky seem to be playing, where they suspected each other knew each other's secrets, but they were just trying to play along.
Yeah,
And
there's a
there was
lot of good
almost
tension through all of
there
that.
was there was almost a Jack and Wendy Torrance from The Shining vibe I was getting from some of those scenes.
That's awesome. Me too. I thought all that really worked. I expected it to be a little bit less sophisticated and less and to TV. And at least for me, it wasn't. I kind of bought into a lot of that stuff. Ward is doing a lot of like really interesting sort of nuanced stuff with his performance. Like we're kind of seeing the Hydra coming out some, but and I was worried, because I know I complained about that when we first saw it. I was kind of worried that now that we know, we would see too much of that, where it's like, okay, now he's constantly showing the real world Ward just because we know that he's the real Ward, but he's also so backed into a corner that he's having a harder time hiding stuff than he used to, and so I'm buying all that.
Yeah, he's not overdoing the evil part. It seems kind of now like a natural fit, frankly, for his character.
I really liked that there's all this innuendo in that, and in those scenes with them together. And by the way, I couldn't believe how much of the episode was that. Like we got a
Mhm.
lot of screen time with those two, just going back and forth and playing each other, and it was this really cool battle of wits, I thought. And I enjoyed how Sky is a pretty good um yeah, adversary for him. And remember that, she doesn't like lies. She doesn't like deception. The where she was at the beginning of the series was trying to bring Shield down. Isn't that fascinating, by the way? That like
Yeah,
she
that's right.
the thing she wanted to do at the beginning of the series was bring Shield down. Shield has now been brought down, and she's in the saddest place she's ever been, because she became a Shield agent, and that was her family. I love that stuff. And so you've got that scene where she's talking about how difficult it is, or where they together are talking about like how difficult it is to pretend to be something that you're not, while they're being something they're not. So like they're actually right in front of each other talking about the very things that are happening
Hmm.
with pretense in order to make it seem more real what it is they're doing. There's some great writing in those scenes, especially in the diner. And I also really liked that they went back to that diner and that Mike Peterson grabs her right outside of it.
And I know, and when Mike Peterson Deathlock shows up, it's like, oh my God, Deathlock!
Did
It's
you have
so
what I did when he first jumps in? I was like, "Holy crap! There's a random flying person. Oh, it's Deathlock."
and that was so great. I'm actually glad they didn't hint at the fact that he was around. I'm glad that he just came out of nowhere, which was what I was hoping they were going to do with him at some point.
One of my favorite experiences when I'm engaging in reading or watching any kind of story is when something is right in front of my face and I don't know it.
Yeah.
And when I finally find out, and I feel like an idiot for not figuring it out in the first place. That is a great experience. That's good writing. And so what we got here was a whole bunch of foreshadowing for him showing up, because after all, she is in the place where she first met him, and I never thought I was going to see him this episode.
That's true. And I'd been kind of like waiting for him to show up again, like since he kind of disappeared.
Yeah, as
So
have I. I also really enjoyed, now that we're there, I also really enjoyed his characterization a lot in this episode, because it fleshed him out and answered a lot of questions for me. Because a few episodes ago with him, I was speculating about whether or not he was being mind controlled at all through the cyborg technology and what
mhm,
exactly his motivations were and things. And they do a really good job of finally making that all explicit here. And
I
uh,
agree.
and I like that he's not being mind controlled, and I actually bought the reasons he's doing what he's doing, and of course we knew it was his son, but I just wasn't sure if he was completely him because he was acting so different. Um, and I guess when you're that caked up in cybernetic technology, it's gonna change the way you act a little bit, because he's defeated, and so that's what he's acting defeated. He's acting like a machine, like a tool, because what else is he gonna do? And it's sad. And so one of my very very favorite things about this episode is seeing Sky not giving Ward an inch, because to her he is no longer a person. He has given up that. And Mike Peterson, who is half cyborg now, she still has hope for, because she still sees good in him. And what we're seeing Mike Peterson going through right now is this like much larger, more like broad overarching version of the character arc he had in the first episode. We're just seeing that expanded and kind of done over again, but in a much bigger way. He is still dealing with all the stuff he was at the beginning. He's a good person, and he can't figure out how not to do bad stuff.
Agreed. Essentially, he isn't being mind controlled. He essentially has a gun to his head.
Exactly.
And he not only has a gun to his head, he has it in his head, essentially. And that's, I don't know, it's just he's kind of at this point he's over the edge on this problem. It's like, what do you do? I mean, he's basically submitted. There's no reason. There's no fighting this situation, he said.
And it brings it all back to what the whole thing with the Marvel Universe ought to be about in the first place, and that's heroes. And the reason that Sky still feels like there's hope for this guy is because at the beginning, if you go back to the first episode, the whole reason that he involved himself with Centipede in the first place was because he wanted to be a hero for his son. That's all it was. And
Hmm.
in trying to become a superhero, he's turned into this, and somebody is taking advantage of him, which is exactly the thematic stuff we were dealing with Shield and Avengers, and with stuff in Winter Soldier, which is people with too much power, trying to control people and take advantage of people. And boy, I just love the way that's finally playing out here.
Hmm. Wow, it's just, it's
So
so
yeah, for that.
wow. This second half of this season is just so vastly different. It's so paced much tighter. Everything is paying off correctly. I
It
mean,
is
they're
incredibly
completely two
lopsided.
different seasons.
Yeah, it's really lopsided. I find myself wondering if I'm gonna go back and rewatch this and like the beginning more or not.
Yeah, I've had that question going on in my
I
head as
keep
well.
thinking
It's like,
that.
are
I
these
mean, I think
episodes
a
going to
lot
be
of that
better,
stuff.
or is it just going to be even more painful?
I mean, I think all that stuff is inherently better just knowing who Ward is. But then, did it have to be paced so slow? Could they not have hooked an audience so that more people would have gotten this far? you, you
Yeah.
know? So yeah, I mean, like, there's still stuff to criticize, but if they listen to the fans and turn the show around, boy, did they turn the show around, right? Like,
Yeah. You know what might have been
kind
nice
of give
is
props for that.
after, because they've been getting a ton of mileage off the Winter Soldier movie, and they got maybe 1.5 episodes off the Thor: The Dark World movie.
Yeah, right.
And I was thinking, maybe they should have like expanded that a little bit more, where they dealt with a few more prisoners from Asgard escaping
Exactly. I could
to
have seen
Earth,
a
and
lot of
have it build up to the
Asgard stuff.
Lorelei episode.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving farther along with the episode, I really like that Sky calls Ward a Nazi.
Oh, wasn't that so great? Yes, yes.
And we've got the Red Skull name drop. But we're in a place now where when they name drop characters from Marvel movies, I don't feel like they're gimmicky anymore.
No, because they
Like they
naturally
kind of
come into their
they
history. Talking about the Red Skull in the in this universe is exactly like talking about Hitler or Stalin. Uh,
yeah.
and I
And like
loved. Oh, I'm sorry.
no, you're fine. Go ahead.
Oh, I love Sky's Hitler speech, and that's something that I've been thinking about, with seeing these guys. Like, no, man, you're Nazis. I mean, they came out of Nazis.
Yeah,
You
and
can
Ward doesn't.
you can put them at any much distance you want and say, oh no, we're not Nazis. Like, no, you're Nazis. And I love that. I love the fact that she called them out on it.
Yeah, Ward doesn't care about all that because just like Garrett, he's just going where the wind blows.
Yeah.
And so like that exchange, I'm a survivor, no, you're a serial killer,
Mm.
is fantastic because we've got a guy here that just has no moral convictions. He thinks he cares about people, but he cares about Sky, but it's a completely self absorbed thing, and he's just too far gone to really fully care about a person. Now it might turn out later on that he kind of makes an epic sacrifice because that's turned around sort of, and
Yeah.
I would be very surprised if that's not where this ultimately went. But I really like where this is leading with him and Garrett because Garrett is proving what Ward has allowed himself to turn into to Ward, and Ward doesn't like it. And he's starting to realize just how screwed up he is. Because he thinks in his twisted world, even though he and Garrett both are doing what they're doing just to survive, and because they believe that Hydra is going to win at the end, so they might as well just go with them. He thinks that he and Garrett are friends and that there's actually loyalty there. No, there's not, because if you have that philosophy, you're going to treat everything that way. It's not just Hydra versus Shield, it's you versus the world. And when push comes to shove, Garrett's going to throw you under the bus to save himself because that's how you both live your lives.
Mm-hmm. And I his following the mission. It wasn't personal. And it was about the mission. And that doesn't sound like we're only following orders.
Yeah, terrifying validations. And I'm glad that we're dealing with that kind of thing in the show now.
Yeah.
And we have been to a degree, but yeah, I mean, the only following orders thing, boy, isn't that really scary? I mean, like, Shield has just been dismantled. We've heard people say things like that about things they did with Shield, where people's hearts were supposedly in the right place, but then sometimes they had to do bad things to get good results. Now you've got
Mm-hmm.
Ord saying that as almost a moral validation, and he's working for Hydra.
Yeah.
Oh man, there's a lot to like in this.
Mm-hmm.
And so much good writing. Like I just kept writing down phrases that were coming out of Sky's and Coulson's mouths. Duplicitous, a low life.
Oh, and also Colson was just great in this episode.
Well, and what about all the banter? Like this is a really good banter episode. Like with Maria Hill and Ward. When Ward's like, if he needed eye candy around, he could have at least picked Romanoff. Like, there's
Like
some really good banter.
I'll tell her you said that.
Yeah, that was great.
I love
I
that.
could.
I love that
Yeah,
realization
sorry.
that I love just the idea of Romanoff taking Ward on and just destroying him.
Kobe Smulders is quite the actress. I didn't know what kind of chops she had for this sort of thing. I mean, I've seen her a lot in How I Met Your Mother, and I've liked her in Avengers and Winter Soldier, but she didn't get a lot to do in those. Boy, here she got to stretch her legs, and she was fantastic. I felt like we got to really see the mad skills of Fury's the lieutenant. Like
Mhm.
it was really nice to get to see all of that actually demonstrated. Like she felt in a lot of ways like a chick Fury,
Yeah, she
which is
did.
awesome.
And just the man, I'm just like thinking, Colby Summers. I actually have very little experience with that actress because I don't watch How I Met Your Mother. I've seen one episode, and I've seen the "Let's Go to the Mall" video, which I think that's her.
Yeah, yeah.
That's it. That's all I have. And I was impressed with her in the first Avengers film because I like Maria Hill, so I was having high hopes that she would be well used in the movie, and I thought she was, and I thought she was great as her. And it's nice to see her get to do stuff in this particular episode. And Talbot. It's great seeing Talbot.
Yeah, we got to see him in person finally. I was kind of hoping that would happen, and I thought he was great.
God, I hate that guy. I've always hated that character. He's so.
Yeah, but you're
He's,
supposed to. I mean,
I
like,
know,
but
I
but
know. That's what's so great about him. I do love. He's a love to hate character, and
yeah, I thought Nathan Petrelli did a great job.
he does. He's just wonderful as that part because he's such a jerk. You love seeing him get taken down.
the, it's really cool how they managed to insert some levity in this episode given how heavy stuff is and how much we're seeing people's worlds just crumble and crumble and crumble, and that Coulson manages to diffuse situations with humor even while everything is blowing up so much. And like he even kind of diffuses that final scene where everything really blows up for him with humor a little bit. And like boy, when he sees that video of himself, and that he was the one that was actually spearheading that whole thing, that whole project, and then his reaction is priceless. Like he just goes, huh. And I was like, that is great. That is classic Whedon stuff.
Do
um
you?
we haven't got we haven't gotten enough of that kind of Whedon stuff. That is classic Whedon.
Yeah. Did you see that coming? Did you see Colson
Uh,
behind
I,
Colson?
it's I felt like I should have, but no, I didn't.
I did not either.
It blew my mind. And maybe I have lowered my expectations and lowered my standards because the show was not as good as this earlier in the season. But no, I never saw that coming, and I got to be mind blown by it. And I guess I should have. Like it seems like the thing you ought to do with it, sure. And like now everything makes so much more sense. I'm not questioning why he was brought back as much as I was before. We still don't know exactly, but I would assume it has something to do with that project, right? Like
Yeah.
he probably knows something about that project somewhere deep inside his mind or whatever that Fury might need at some point or something. That's the only thing I can figure.
True. I mean, that wasn't the smoking gun for every question we've had, but it was not the
No,
direction I was expecting.
but was it satisfying? I thought it was satisfying.
It was satisfying. Of course, we will, classic TV mystery ongoing thingy. Uh, it gave us it gave us a big answer, but left. more questions, and it did its job accurately, I thought.
Sure, but now it's a lot more interesting. Now, I will say, I kind of wish we could have gotten that reveal in maybe episode 10, but I guess that's more like saying I wish this whole show could have started with Hydra or a couple
Yeah,
episodes before Hydra. You know what I mean? Like I
I
do feel
do, I
like we were
do, yeah.
stalling for a long time, and now, and I mean, again, I don't want to contradict myself. As I've said before, I think the Ward reveal does make a lot of that earlier stuff maybe make more sense, and they're trying to misdirect us with it. But they were trying to misdirect us for too long. Like I wasn't trusting this show to get to be this good and to surprise me the way that it has. And so, we finally get that reveal. Where it's placed, where we're at in the story right now, is precisely the right place.
Yes.
But I guess I'm just saying that, like, I might tell somebody that's never watched the show to skip a certain number of episodes.
Yeah, I know. I'm waiting to see how the season ends. Yeah, I mean, what do you tell someone? I have to like take a look at the series again.
Watch episode 1 and then jump to the bridge. I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I'd hate to. I'd hate to do that because there
Well, me
probably is
too.
information
Some
within
stuff in
these
there.
episodes. But you're right. I mean, it. I've been trying to think about it. Like, it's like maybe they weren't totally sure how the Winter Soldier film was going to end, so that kind of left them a little uncertain as to what to do for that first half of the season, how to build up to it. Like they were maybe afraid to build up to it too quickly, uh, so they did what they could. That would be my only guess.
I don't know, man. I don't see how they started that show without knowing the ending of Winter Soldier. I mean, that script had to have been a couple years old.
I suppose so, but a lot of things do get changed at the last minute. Uh,
No, that's absolutely true. Because then at the same time, it's hard to imagine that you would greenlight a Shield show with the Winter Soldier thing, knowing that was going to happen, where you've got this show where halfway in the middle of the first season of a thing called Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you've dismantled S.H.I.E.L.D. Where do you go? I mean, surely they're going to find a way to bring it back, but I mean, like, the government is in this ruthless place right now where they're like, we're going to treat every S.H.I.E.L.D. agent like a Hydra agent just to cover our own butts.
yeah, it's like
Which is realistic in my mind. I think that makes perfect sense that that's how they're playing it.
yeah, it's almost like the McCarthy hearings, really, the McCarthy age, where hey,
Oh, I'm glad you said that. It's just like that.
there's a couple of there's some people sprinkled in here. Well, that means they're all evil. Yeah, I think they could play it totally that way over the next, the rest of the season, the rest of the first half of the next season.
Yeah, are you now or have you ever been an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Yeah, are you now or have you ever been a member of Hydra?
Yeah, seriously. But apparently, they can do that with a lie detector, and apparently all you have to do is stab yourself with something, and then like, and then you'll get through that just fine.
well,
Even if someone holds a gun to your head. Well, but we're not all trained like Ward, I guess.
well, during the senatorial hearings, they'll have to be really cagey about it. The senator will have to start the question, "Hail, hi, what do you mean? I don't know what you're talking about."
Simon didn't say. Um.
I got you.
Okay, so earlier you were talking about the Talbot thing, and I was talking about humor. I thought it was really funny when Coulson said, "If I come out, are you gonna shoot me? Because if you are, then I'm not gonna come out."
Yeah, that was a Whedonish kind of line too. I'd forgotten
It was,
about
but
that
it's
line.
also very Coulson. Like I'm in a place now where I feel like I really get this character. And then you get to the end of the episode, and it's so sad because he's right back to that place he was before, but in an even worse way of I don't know who I am. Because like finally we got the identity stuff back in here, and that's the kind of stuff that really fuels me, especially in pseudo superhero stories. It's all about identity, and with Coulson, we get to the end of this, and he's told by himself, who's not really him, but only sort of kind of is, that you have to completely reprogram a person's brain if you're even going to think about bringing them back. And so we can't be doing this. And so he knows now, without a shadow of a doubt, that he can't trust that he's the person he was before.
Mm-hmm.
And man, like I know he's already been dealing with that, but to have yourself say it, I mean, did you feel the same way I did, where I felt like I was watching a different person talking to him?
Yeah, he did a good job with his demeanor in that scene. So yeah, I don't know. We're gonna be seeing something like that.
I don't know. I am fascinated by that kind of psychology, and the kind of existential nature of all of that is what's got me going with Coulson right now. And I really thought I would hate the whole being back from the dead thing, and I thought that, and it's a little convoluted. I don't know how you can do it without being convoluted. We knew it probably would be when we heard the premise for the show. Oh, Coulson gets his own TV show after he's dead, but to have Coulson himself be the reason he got resurrected, it's about the best way I think you could handle it.
So far, they have been handling it fairly well. I
They,
was.
it's taken too long, but
Oh,
they've
sorry.
handled it well. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. Testing. Testing.
Hail!
Mashed potatoes. That
Okay, I'll put my
did
gun
that
away.
fool you? Okay. So,
No, no.
my thoughts about Colton coming back. I was hesitant too because I'm one of those guys who goes, "Oh, leave the character dead if they have a good death." But I was also thinking, you know what? Marvel is bringing what's so good and bad about comic books to film goers. Well, okay, here it is, film goers. Here's what it's like to read comic books. You get really
Yeah.
wrapped up in a character getting killed, and then they bring them back. So here we go. That's. I was thinking, okay, all right, let's do this. And thankfully, at this point, I'm fairly satisfied with how they did it.
Me too, especially because I really feel like right now I've got to look at it as Coulson wasn't brought back from the dead. It's not really him.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's kind of a different person,
So yeah,
and so
he
it
died
kind of works
and
a
not
little bit
died.
better. Yeah, it's not like other things we've seen in comics where somebody comes back and then we just kind of move on. Where it's just, well, we can't leave that character dead. He's too popular. I mean, yeah, that is the reason they brought him back as far as the production side of it. But inside the universe, it's really feeling a lot more like we kind of have this new character sort of based on this old character who wishes he was that old character, and then it's us. It's still dealing with actions and consequences because he's in a way responsible for this kind of nightmare. So yeah, I don't know. I'm getting a lot out of it. I really like it. Hey, let's talk about the flying car.
Let's talk about it.
So that was cool.
All right, I liked it.
Yeah, I'm glad they did it. It didn't look great. There were a couple of spots where I was like, that green screen's not looking great, you
When
guys.
they were shooting downward, right, and then the camera was like on top of the car, right?
That didn't look
Well,
great. Now,
yeah,
I
that part didn't.
I thought it was really really fun that Sky started flying out of the car. Like I love that they did that. I thought that was really funny. And he brings her back down, and he's like, you were supposed to put your seatbelt on. Like that's all really thrilling and funny. And we needed that kind of levity. Ha! See what I did there? But um it didn't look great. Now, when the car actually crashed, I thought that looked okay.
Yeah, it looked pretty good. And there were some scenes where the car was where you saw like the undercarriage of the car as they were kind of flipping around. Some of that looked
Yeah.
good. Oh, but God, man, this episode's intense. There's a lot of things going on, and it still finds moments to be funny. I love that suspenseful moment where Colton sees Sky, and she asks him, "How'd you get by Deathlock?" And
Yeah, that was hilarious. And the look on his face. Wait, Deathlock's here?
yeah,
Like he felt like, I don't know why I'm saying this. Greg in that moment felt like he was a kid playing in the backyard.
hmm
And that's just great. Wait a minute, what?
it's funny and scary at the same time.
That really is. Oh, that was a lot of fun. Hey, let's talk for a minute before we go on to best moment, worst moment about Fitzsimmons. Um, because I thought that their moment together at the end was super, super touching. And I also really enjoyed watching Fitz freak out the way he did and then having to find a way to pull it all back together. Now, there's a part of me that hopes that that's not all that his kind of instability lately was leading up to. Was just a hissy fit throwing around some kitchen utensils.
Yeah.
But I did really like that scene, and I kind of feel like he's maybe got some more freaking out to do.
He does because he's still highly jealous of Simmons. Um,
I know. I don't like that love triangle
I,
though.
I
That I could live
I
without.
don't. He makes me nervous. That whole thing makes me nervous, but
The whole thing trip, yeah.
not in a totally good way. We'll see how it ends.
Right.
But right now it's like I don't know about this. But yeah, I agree. I liked his freak out a lot because he's been, of the two forensic, geeky scientist characters. They've been the nice ones, and they've been, fairly, geeky and polite. And yeah, he just has this moment where he's betrayed and he's angry and he's confused. I thought that was a really believable moment.
He's been ready to snap this whole time, and I enjoy that both of them like a lot of things about Shield and are discovering what they don't like about it. And the thing they don't like about it, of course, is the thing that made it fall apart in the first place. And Fitz is not the kind of guy who enjoys undercover and who enjoys all the subterfuge. I mean, I guess he does to a point when it feels more like play. Like we saw that he's better at it than Simmons is earlier in the season, and that but like so I guess I don't know. Let me change that. I guess he likes getting to do that for a point and sort of a again playing in the backyard spy kind of thing, but he doesn't like hiding things from his friends and feeling like they're hiding things from him. And so I just really liked that moment when he said, "Just tell me you're not Hydra." It sounds stupid, but I need you to say it. That was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I like Trip eating snacks. It was a great scene because give that guy a little bit to do, right? Like they're doing a good job of juggling characters right now because they have a lot of people to focus on, and I really like where Triplet is with Coulson now. Because you remember a couple episodes ago, Coulson didn't trust him because of Garrett and didn't want him on the plane, and now he is very happily kind of being Coulson's muscle.
Yeah.
And he says, "I'm just waiting around till that man tells me to work." I really liked that.
I'm really happy. It's one of those things where I have these moments where if something pays off the exact way I think it is, I sometimes get disappointed. But then there are other times where things get paid off the way I was hoping would. I'm really happy, and I'm really happy the way uh, their relationship is so far turning, especially with this past episode. Because I kind of had that feeling once I realized that he wasn't Hydra and Garrett was, and Ward was Hydra. So I thought, man, these guys are gonna bond soon, and thankfully that looks like it's happening.
Well, and it's nice that between the three of those guys, one of them really was super cool and kind of salt of the earth.
Yeah,
The last big point I wanted to make before we go on is I like how Garrett's presence is very, very looming throughout this whole episode, but he doesn't show up.
that's true. Yeah, yeah, he does not.
I always like it when shows manage to do that. A few episodes ago in Arrow, they did a really good job of that with Deathstroke. There's an episode where he's been a huge presence, and then there's a whole episode where he's not there, but we're talking about him constantly, and he feels like he's there. And we got the exact same thing with Garrett here, and I thought that was played really,
Yeah,
really well.
and Fury's been kind of like that in this show.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, let's go on to best moment, worst moment. My favorite moment was the flying car crash. I really really liked that, and also the opening with Hill and May, and their conversation at the beginning is kind of a close second.
Yeah. The Lola action sequence with the car was fantastic. Even though there's a couple of CG faking frames of the sequence, otherwise it was great. How'd you get back past Deathstroke was great. Um,
No, not Deathstroke.
uh,
Deathlock.
Deathlock, excuse me. I'm sorry,
Why
their
do you have
names are alike.
Why do we have to have two TV shows going on simultaneously with the word death in front of major villains?
Yeah. Deathlock. How'd you get past Deathlock? Yeah, that was great. I liked that scene where May jumps out of Coulson's grave.
Out of what now?
I like that scene where May digs up Coulson's grave.
Oh yeah, I wanted to ask you about. Sorry, you cut out for a minute, and I thought you said she jumps out of Coulson's brain.
Yeah, remember that scene?
Yeah, and I was like, that sounds surreal and fantastic. No, did you have what I had the first time you watched it, where I thought she was digging up Fury's
Me
grave?
too. Yeah, it was a great fake out. I just love the way she just pops out of that grave. He surprises that guy.
Some people are kind of wondering right now how in the world Coulson is able to keep his cover because he's supposed to be dead, but he keeps showing up everywhere.
That's true. I mean, he's even led troops into missions.
Yeah, and I mean he crashed. He crashes right in the middle of this big huge thing. But I mean, like, I don't know. I don't know that he was ever like a public enough figure that people would. Well, he wasn't public at all, right? He was always kind of covert.
Yeah, yeah, he was. I think that's
So
probably what they're dealing with here. I mean, he wasn't. I mean, he wasn't Steve Rogers. I mean, if Steve Rogers had like faked his death and would be showing up here and there and leading troops, I think people would be talking. But Colson was a paper pusher. Colson was a guy behind the scenes, and kind of discreet. So you don't really think about him. So I don't. It's somewhat believable they can get away with this, and there are other moments where it's a little less believable.
yeah, I mean Coulson's not like Jack Bauer, where like he's on, or like in season 7 he's on TV giving a deposition, and then everybody throughout the whole day is like, I saw you on TV with your deposition, but then somehow or rather he's capable of still like going undercover and stuff. Doesn't make any sense.
I
Uh,
I know.
did you have a worst moment? Because boy, this episode, man, I didn't. I liked everything about it. I think.
The closing credits I thought were too quick. Not very good credits. Oh, they were terrible.
You didn't like you didn't like the credits.
They were
You
awful.
thought, yeah.
There was not enough about what was going on ABC next week.
Oh, okay, all
I
right. Well,
need more of
that
that flashing and screaming at me while I'm trying to watch the credits.
that's a fair complaint. You want to stay in your comfort zone.
Actually, I don't know. Are you tired of? Sometimes I get into a TV show that has a good closing credits theme, and you can never hear it because they're screaming at you what's coming on. Next week on Modern Family or something like that.
Well, I used to have that, but that's the reason I don't watch TV on TV anymore.
Yeah,
So I just watch it on Hulu or on the channel's website or whatever, and then I don't have that problem.
yeah, that's true. I mean, I occasionally watch Adventure Time on DVD, and it's like, oh yeah, the theme is really nice. I don't usually get to hear this theme too often.
Yeah.
The closing credits theme, that is.
No, actually, I get the Shield theme stuck in my head all week after I finish watching it. It's like don 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 ba 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 ba.
is that the,
It's just like,
is that what the theme sounds like?
yeah,
Oh, let's see. That's almost
yeah.
like a game show theme.
No, it's just a kind of a spy thing. Well, it sounds like it when I do it, I'm sure. I don't happen to have an orchestra right here.
Okay, all right, okay. I'll let that go then.
So, what's the big idea? We talked a great deal about already. I think we went through kind of themes and things, and there are a lot of the same stuff that's been building. So let's jump over to guest stars. Really, Kobe Smulders, who we've had previously on the show once. Was there anybody else I should have mentioned guest star wise? I think that was kind of the big one.
Well, Deathlock doesn't count as a guest star anymore, does he? I mean, he's
No,
kind of a
no, we know who J. August Richards is. Yeah.
yeah, he's kind of a current recurring. I count him as kind of a part of the cast. Um,
I I still hope he goes regular, man.
yeah, or at least recurring character anyway. I mean, but I consider him part of the show. So it's
Let's
great seeing Colby Summers. I love seeing her on the show. I love her as this character. Now that her sitcom is done, I would kill for her to be on this show more regularly.
Well, originally, I'm glad you said that. Originally, I said I bet next season we see uh, Coulson become director of the new Shield. Kind of starting to wonder if maybe it ends up being her unless she decides not to leave Stark. But like that could happen. It's just like it would be hard. The thing is, if she stays with Stark, it would be really hard to keep contriving reasons for her to show up in the show.
The thing is, it's going to depend a lot on her role in Avengers 2, because that's the next one after Guardians of the Galaxy, correct?
Yeah,
So, depends on what she's doing in Avengers 2. If it's very
that's true.
important for her to be part of Stark in that
They'll build
movie,
they'll build it around that. You're absolutely right.
yeah, then that's going to affect how we'll see her or not see her in season 2.
Manos, did you have a favorite line?
Ugh, I love the Colson line about not coming out if you're going to shoot me. I love May's line about Man Thing, and
It
I
wasn't May. It wasn't May. It was Hill.
oh excuse me. Hey, it was Hill. That's right. May and
Yeah,
her. Okay. I love Hill's line about Man Thing. And lastly, I love Sky's Nazi speech. That was a great speech. I really enjoyed that part.
yeah. I had the same thing. Who or what is a man thing? Oh, that's great. I mentioned a lot of my favorite dramatic lines earlier. I wrote quotes all over my notes. I also kind of liked "I wish this bunker had a bunker."
That's funny.
Let's go on to comic book references. Mostly name drops of things that were in the movies already. We got Red Skull, we got Pepper Potts on the phone, we got Maria Hill, and of course Man Thing. That was great. If anybody else noticed anything I didn't, leave that in the comments. Did you think of any other comic book references? That's what I had.
Outside of that, yeah, that's all I had. Hey, here's a funny question. There was a
Yeah,
Sci-Fi Channel TV movie produced by Marvel for Man Thing.
that's right.
Is that in this continuity?
No,
Okay.
no, it's definitely not. And
Oh,
I think that predates Marvel Cinematic, but I'm not
I
sure.
think it does, but I'm
Or
not
maybe it's like
100%.
right. It's right around there, isn't it? It's '07 or '08. It's right around there. But
It's
no,
mid
it's
2000s.
it is not considered because the thing is if it was before Iron Man it would count as the first movie of this. So no it doesn't
That would be hilarious.
That would be ridiculous. But yeah, that's great. Also, I don't know if that movie was even remotely watchable. I didn't see it.
No, I haven't seen it either, and I hear it's terrible.
Well, let's go on to predictions. I think we've done a few already. As I said earlier, I think Fitz definitely has more snapping to do. My big prediction right now is, but besides, I think it's likely that Ward makes some kind of epic sacrifice. Ward kills Garrett.
I have that feeling too.
That happens. I would bet you $50 that happens.
At the very least, these guys are going to be set against each other in some sort of John Woo style face off.
They're already pretty darn close, right? Like we haven't even had them back on screen together yet, and Ward is already seeing what this guy is capable of, and how expendable he is. I think that's the most important thing is that Ward is now expendable.
I know. I mean, that's his best buddy, and his mission is like, hey, I need you to like stab him in the heart to get her to talk. That
Oh man,
that does not
that was
create that does not create a lot of loyalty.
no, it really doesn't. Sure doesn't, man. Man, also I tell you what, man. If you ever do that to me, I'm sorry, but I'm not sure we could be friends after
Oh, I
that.
know. If my boss does that to me, I'm quitting.
I think you'd probably do more than that.
Oh, I know. Like if somebody wants to return something that looks fraudulent at the store, and he tells that customer like, "Hey, I'm going to stab this guy in the heart for real if you don't tell me the truth," I'm quitting.
And then after that, your boss is like, it was nothing personal.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure they didn't return that, you know, in a suspicious manner.
I'm sorry, that's just more important than your life.
That was a
So,
$50 pair of shoes.
Manos, did you have any other predictions?
Um, Outside of the Garrett Ward face-off, not really. I assume we'll probably get a few more answers on the Colson death thing. Oh, and that's all I have at the moment.
Yeah, I mean everything else that I would have is just stuff I've said before. That I think is becoming more confirmed. I really think we see Fury before the season is out.
Oh, I'm betting on it. He'll be last episode. I think I've
And
even heard that confirmed.
I don't even need him a whole episode. I just need a really
Oh, not the whole
good
episode, but
I just need a really good 5 minute exchange between him and Coulson.
I think we're going to get a 5 to 10 minute scene. It's going to be near the end of the final episode. It's either going to be a climactic scene or the scene after the climactic scene. Part of the epilogue.
And Fury's going to say, "Look, it happened. If you don't like it, we kept your grave open. You can just go climb right back inside of it." Man, so let's go on to trivia questions. What was your question?
That's a trivia question, D.
Bum 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 bum
Bum, bum,
bum.
bum.
What was your question from last time, and what was the answer?
My question from last time was, what's her name who played the cellist?
Yeah, her name is
The actress from
Angel.
Angel.
Yeah, her name is not inside my brain right now. Anyway,
I can't remember her name, but anyway, she has played a superhero in the past. Who did she play? And the answer is the Huntress. She played the voice of the Huntress in the Justice League Unlimited series.
and lots of people got that.
Yeah,
Amy Acker.
Amy Acker. Thank you.
I can always remember her name until somebody asks me, and then I can't remember it. You ever have that?
Yeah, I do. And sometimes if you see their picture, then go, oh, that's Amy Acker. I don't know why their face jogged my memory, but that happens.
My question from last time was from the episode, and it was, what name was Skye given at the orphanage where she grew up? And it was Mary Sue Pooch. And I just think it's hilarious that her name was Mary Sue.
Mm-hmm.
She was a Mary Sue.
Not the Pooch part?
No, that's funny too, but just like, you hear people so often complain, "Oh man, that character was a Mary Sue,"
Like
and I just think it's
Mary Sue.
yeah, and she was a Mary. That's really funny in my brain. Okay, what was your? I don't know if it was intentional, but I liked it. What was your trivia question for this week, Manos? Hey, Manos, was it about Man Thing?
How did you guess?
Oh, I knew it was gonna be about Man Thing. Okay, go ahead. Give us your Man Thing question.
All right. A simple Man Thing question. Who created Man Thing?
Who created Man Thing? I can't think of it, but if you show me his picture,
no, I don't want to show you a picture of Man Thing.
Oh, okay. My question is from the episode, and it is, this is probably the obligatory thing to ask, but I'm doing it anyway. How much money does Coulson pay to park his car after he crashes it?
Ooh, I remember that.
Yeah. So anyway, hey, thanks everybody for listening. I hope you had a good time listening to S.H.I.E.L.D. discussions. We'll be back with you next week with hopefully another really riveting episode. Yay, this is fun. And we appreciate you. Be sure to leave a comment and tell us what you thought about this episode. And we'll see you next time. I'm Captain Logan.
Bum, bum, bum. And I'm the real Manos.
Bum, 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 bum.